Today on Investigate TV Plus Weekend, critics of ankle monitors demand changes as some who wear them continue to commit violent crimes. We investigate the lack of accountability.
It has to be reformed. The whole system, it's a false sense of security.
And a call for change. We uncover gaps in the system as juveniles escape secure detention facilities across the country.
And I just hope to be able to save another family from this heartache and from having to be re-traumatized.
Plus, a mother hit and killed by a drunk driver sparks a push to close a legal loophole.
How am I gonna tell 4 kids that their mom is gone? How am I gonna tell her sisters that their sister's gone?
Investigate TV Plus Weekend starts right now. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV Plus Weekend. I'm Lee Zurich. Ankle monitors are used in all 50 states as an extra set of eyes to keep tabs on suspects and convicts. But in many cases, those monitors don't prevent crimes from happening. And as reporter Chris Nakamoto found, that false sense of security is pushing some to demand changes.
Tell me about your mom, Peggy. What was she like?
She was fun. She loved to have fun. She laughed a lot. She was a joy to all of us. She loved her kids and her grandkids, and especially her great-grandbaby. She loved her bean dip and margaritas. She was just a caring, loving, supportive mom. Had I thought he would do it, what he did, I would have never let my mom stay at her home by herself until something was done. It breaks my heart today that I wasn't there.
It all started in August of 2021 when Peggy Beasley went to police alleging her husband and the man she knew for nearly 2 decades, Marshall Rayburn, was drugging and raping her.
She woke up with abdominal pains and clearly had been taken advantage of.
Prosecutors say Rayburn documented his crimes with pictures that were stored on his computer. Rayburn was arrested for second-degree rape. After posting a $100,000 bond, he was released from jail with an ankle monitor and told to stay away from his wife's home. That exclusion zone, an imaginary circle that included hundreds of feet around her house, was programmed into the monitor. Our national investigative team analyzed the GPS coordinates. Data reveals 4 days after Rayburn began wearing it, he entered the exclusion zone on September 1st, triggering a notification to the monitoring company 5 different times. Over the next 2 weeks, he did it again and again. And there were also other notification triggers, like when the device lost communication. This map shows how many times he went back to the area where the victim was, even though he told prosecutors he was staying with his daughter 41 miles away. On September 20th, Rayburn returned back to his wife's home and hid out in the laundry room and waited for Peggy to start her nighttime routine.
And he knew that she would go out and take the dogs out one last time before she went to bed.
District Attorney Sam DeQuilla says a neighbor heard screams and rushed to help. He described the dramatic scene which played out over a 911 call.
Marshall put the gun to the neighbor's chest and fired through her chest, through her back, and hit the victim in the eye and killed her.
Rayburn then turned the gun on himself. When law enforcement arrived, crime scene photos revealed he had wrapped his ankle monitor in aluminum foil to scramble the signal. That was successful. The monitor noting a loss of communication on the device, which prosecutors say also should have sparked a notification by the ankle monitoring company.
He blatantly broke the rules and he tested them. He would ride by, a certain area just to see if it would trigger. And the GPS data shows that.
Incredulous by what unfolded, prosecutors say their research showed the ankle monitoring company AEM out of Mississippi did not bother to notify anyone of the zone violations or the communication losses on Marshall Rayburn's ankle monitor.
It's a slap in the face to the victims and to the public because of the false sense of security that they have. These are dangerous individuals that are being monitored, and they're committing crimes with no oversight and no consequences, and the companies have no consequences at all.
Across America, the use of ankle monitors started increasing in recent years in an effort to reduce jail overcrowding.
Now, to continue in this progress to decrease the population inside the jail, the latest proposal is more ankle monitors.
InvestigateTV found examples of individuals wearing monitors and later accused of committing violent crimes like shootings and murders. Although circumstances surrounding each case are different, prosecutors and critics say the lack of supervision is a problem everywhere.
He is being charged with assault and battery as well as discharging firearms into a vehicle.
In Charleston, South Carolina, Justin Moultrie was wearing an ankle monitor, suspected of murdering a man in 2020 when police arrested him as a suspect in a different shooting, which left a 9-year-old hurt.
Teenager charged with killing a Memphis pastor on Monday was out on probation and wearing an ankle monitor at the time of the murder.
In Memphis, Tennessee, a 15-year-old was on an ankle monitor for crimes he was convicted of when he was arrested, accused of shooting and killing a beloved pastor.
A 20-year-old with an ankle monitor was arrested for his involvement in a third shooting in the last year.
In Nashville, Santez Bedingfield was wearing an ankle monitor, accused in 2 shootings when Metro Police say he was arrested again while wearing one, accused in a 3rd shooting. And in New Orleans, police say a 15-year-old convicted of aggravated assault was wearing a deactivated ankle monitor when he was accused of murdering a tour guide in the city's famed French Quarter. If used effectively, supporters say ankle monitors are a popular tool that can keep tabs on those waiting for their day in court. But suspects accused in violent crimes are also being outfitted with them.
It's just unbelievable. I mean, it happens all across the country as well. It's just like the Wild West. These monitoring companies show up, they talk to a judge, they talk to the sheriff, they enter into an agreement, say we're going to monitor these individuals, and there's no monitoring at all.
Our national investigative team looked at ankle monitoring laws across America and found most states do not have a provision that allows for law enforcement or a prosecutor to charge ankle monitoring companies and their employees with a crime if they fail to notify law enforcement of a breach. Frustrated with the lack of accountability, District Attorney Sam DeQuilla, in one of the first of its kind indictments in the country, charged the owner of the monitoring company AEM and an employee tasked with monitoring Rayburn with negligent homicide in a South Louisiana court.
Why wasn't my mother notified? Why weren't the police notified? And just pure anger to see with facts in your face that this was completely preventable.
That's one of the hardest things for my brothers and I, for us to live with, knowing that her life could have been saved so many times. So it didn't have to be this. It didn't have to be.
Following the indictment, the owners of the ankle monitoring company won an appeal to have their indictment tossed out. But this summer, the state Supreme Court in Louisiana ruled the indictment was valid and the case could proceed.
The system failed. The system is failing. We're doing everything we can to hold somebody accountable for the death of their mother.
As the indictment moves forward, Beasley's case also led lawmakers to change state law. Monitoring companies are now liable in Louisiana for a lack of supervision. Companies not in compliance and their employees can face up to 6 months of imprisonment and fines if they don't report ankle monitor violations to law enforcement. The company involved would also be banned from doing business in the state for 5 years. It's too late to bring Beasley back, but her children believe it's not too late for the rest of the country to take action to prevent someone else from feeling the heartache they experience daily.
We miss her. We miss her. She was one of a kind. She truly was. I know people say that, but she was a good one.
We reached out to AEM, the monitoring company mentioned in this report, along with their owner and lawyer for a comment. They did not respond. Court documents showed defendants challenged the indictment, claiming there was no legal basis to charge them with a crime.
Coming up, dangerous teens are escaping from secure juvenile lockups across the country. What our team uncovered about gaps in tracking these escapees next. Juveniles accused and convicted of serious crimes are escaping detention facilities across the country, and the troubled teen industry faces a tough challenge, balancing rehabilitation with security. Our team found part of the public safety problem is a lack of uniform security protocols across the country. Now there's a call for change. Chris Nakamoto is back to explain.
Mom was complicated. She was a very good lady. You know, I grew up with my mom she was a single mom. She worked very hard to take care of me, and I was the only child. But my mom had a lot of mental health problems. She really struggled with a lot of things, and she never took care of them. And so sometimes our relationship was really strained because of that. But I always knew that she loved me, no matter what. Every year we typically had a New Year's Eve party. So of course we were planning because it was the day before New Year's Eve. And we had made food, we had cleaned the house, and it was about 10:30, 11 o'clock and we were going to bed. And we didn't think anything with the phone ringing. And it was my stepdad's granddaughters. So it was an odd phone call, and they said, "We needed to let you know that something happened at your mom's house. There was an intruder. And all we know is that someone has been shot."
Becky Everton's mom, Angela Heyman, heard a noise under the carport of her Baton Rouge home. When she went to check it out, she was met by a 15-year-old gun-toting juvenile, Xavier Cade. Investigators believe Cade got spooked and shot Heyman. She died at the scene. Her husband, who heard the commotion, grabbed a gun and fired back, shooting Cade in the abdomen. The juvenile shooter went to the hospital, and when he was released a week later, he was booked into this juvenile detention facility, but not for long. Our national investigative team uncovered court records typically kept secret involving Cade's juvenile criminal history. That file shows Cade spent 6 months in juvenile lockup following the killing until his parents posted bond in July 2020.
We were just appalled that they send this child home that had committed murder and they just let him go home with no conditions on his release. He just went home.
The following month, Cade's mom texted his social worker saying he disappeared. He's outfitted with an ankle monitor, but that didn't stop his criminal behavior. Months after getting that monitor, he stole a car in December of 2020. 2 months pass and more trouble. He removed his ankle bracelet and disappeared again. In May, prosecutors petitioned to get his bond revoked after Cade gets caught trying to buy a gun. Prosecutors say the ankle monitor tracking him was dead. Law enforcement sent him back to juvenile detention. But Cade had no plans of staying locked up. In October, he and 4 other juveniles violently attacked 3 guards and escaped in one of the guards' vehicles.
Like, this is crazy. What is happening here? And why is it this person who murdered not adequately being held? There's a problem here.
Cade's mother eventually turned him back in. In January of 2022, he was moved to an adult jail and later pled guilty to manslaughter, getting 25 years for killing Angela Heyman. Everton's issues are not unique. It's happened in Virginia.
This was a very elaborate plan. It first started with choking out a prison guard and then going on to cutting a hole in the fence, and it ended with fleeing in a getaway car.
Tennessee.
At the Juvenile Detention Center, we had some youth escape from the Juvenile Detention Center.
Mississippi.
So it may seem quiet now here at the Henley Young Patton Juvenile Detention Center, but earlier, behind me, there was chaos inside of that facility.
And Hawaii.
The escape happened about 10:45 Wednesday morning at the Hawaii Youth Correctional Facility.
Our team uncovered there are gaps with how escapes are tracked both pre and post-conviction. The Interstate Compact for Juveniles is a law that regulates juveniles between states. It logs escapes only if juveniles escape from jail and cross state lines. Since 2021, 89 juveniles have escaped secure facilities in America and were found in other states. But that's a low number because if they escape and don't cross state lines, that number is not tracked. Another entity, the Federal Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, told us it does not track escapes. So we filed a series of requests with all 50 states trying to get their escape data. More than half responded. Most escapes happen from state-run juvenile facilities. Of those from 2021 to 2023, the data shows Louisiana reported 61 total, followed by Michigan, Iowa, Oregon, and Nevada.
If you don't have proper staffing and coverage with the kids, that's going to be a problem.
Part of the problem with juveniles escaping is the need for incarceration at all. Many juveniles reoffend and some of their crimes escalate. That problem facing the nation is familiar to Mark Stewart in Missouri. Stewart helped launch the Missouri model for juvenile justice in the 1970s, which has been widely praised and copied around the nation, particularly because the rate of reincarceration is much lower using this method.
There was buy-in from the legislators, the judges, all those people, and again, they knew it worked.
The model focuses on a therapeutic approach by turning jails and prisons into more group-like settings instead of cells. A trip to Missouri reveals their facilities resemble schools rather than prisons. There's no barbed wire and a welcoming sign. Missouri's model has been hailed a shining success. In recent years, their state's data indicates about 1/4 of juveniles reoffend after they are released, compared to states like Texas and Arizona, where that number is doubled. But the push to implement something like what's been successful in Missouri has also been wrought with challenges in some other states. Louisiana tried copying the Missouri model, but has encountered challenges in recent years.
So it's kind of like a stool without having all 4 legs on it. If you do 1 or 2 or even 3, you're not going to get it done. So a lot of times people have the right intent, but they don't know what to do or how to do it.
Obviously, the therapeutic model has not caught up with the level of criminal action that's happening.
For Everton, she felt re-traumatized each time Cade committed new crimes with no way to control him. She wrote to her state lawmakers demanding a fix, but not much has been done. She's hoping another family doesn't experience her pain, as she recognizes transforming a complex juvenile system is impossible overnight.
Our situation is a very prime example of why this is not working. I can tell you that something has to change. It has to change.
Xavier Cade's defense lawyers claim he was mentally ill and in crisis when he went on his crime sprees. They claim his age prevented him from understanding right from wrong and are trying to have his conviction tossed out.
And she was my best friend. I don't have anybody now.
Up next, a mother of 4 hit and killed by a drunk driver, but the blood test results thrown out because of a technicality. How a new law hopes to prevent a tragedy like this from happening again after the break. Every day, 37 people are killed in drunk driving crashes. That's 1 person every 39 minutes. The consequences of driving while impaired are well known, but laws can vary state to state. Carly Gordon in Nashville examined a case where a legal loophole allowed a repeat DUI offender to plead guilty to a lesser crime, despite hitting and killing a mother of 4.
911, location of your emergency.
Multiple drivers called 911 when they saw a man swerving his brand new car in and out of traffic.
He's gonna kill somebody.
Sadly, seconds later,
Oh, he just crashed!
that is exactly what happened.
And she was my best friend. I don't have anybody now.
28-year-old Sade Lazou was driving home from work when she was hit by a drunk driver on Clarksville's Ashland City Road. Her mother, Ann Lazou, remembers getting the phone call in 2021.
Your daughter's been in an accident.
Seeing the pictures.
I looked at the car and I was like, is this my car?
And then sitting in this hospital room where a doctor delivered the excruciating blow.
It was the ride home, thinking on how am I gonna tell 4 kids that their mom is gone? How am I gonna tell her sisters that their sister's gone? How am I gonna tell her father?
It was Dylan Grady, a repeat DUI offender, that hit Sade. A blood draw revealed he was once again drunk behind the wheel, well over the legal limit. But that draw happened at Vanderbilt in Nashville, not in Clarksville where the crash took place. And so the results were thrown out, deemed inadmissible in court. It meant Grady was able to plead guilty to vehicular homicide by intoxication. He'll have to serve about 3.5 years in jail, as opposed to getting convicted of aggravated vehicular homicide, which carries a minimum sentence of 15 years.
I'm pissed. I'm mad. I'm furious.
It happens more than a lot of people think.
Norris Skelly is with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. He took Shaunae's story to the Tennessee General Assembly and managed to get a new law passed. Starting July 1st, blood draw search warrants will be valid statewide.
All we ask for is accountability and responsibility from those who choose to drive under the influence.
Sadly, the change will not make a difference for Shaunae's case, but the hope is that it might save someone else's life.
Because I don't wish this on anybody.
Coming up, if you go out to eat with friends or family, the question of who is going to pay inevitably comes up. We share tips to help make those money conversations easier next. "66% of Americans in a new survey by NerdWallet say they feel uncomfortable talking to friends about money." Reporter Rachel DePompa gets some insight from a financial expert about ways to make money conversations a little less awkward in this week's Watching Your Wallet.
43% of Americans say they've lent money to a friend, and 20% have had to remind that friend to pay them back. This is according to a new NerdWallet study. Maybe you and your friends love to go out for dinner or plan vacations together. There are times when you're going to need to talk about finances. And Kim Palmer, a personal finance expert with NerdWallet, says money and friendship can lead to some really awkward conversations.
There are so many circumstances where money comes up with friends. For example, people told us that they often have to ask a friend to pay them back or remind them to pay them back. They sometimes have to say they can't do an activity with a friend because of money. And then sometimes, of course, people fight about money too.
But there are all sorts of ways to make it easier, because if you don't talk to friends about money, you can easily get into a situation where you can't afford to pay someone back.
So just being upfront and honest about your spending limits and what you want to pay total for the activities that you're planning together, it can alleviate the discomfort that can come later if it turns out you plan something that is really out of your budget.
Palmer says one of the best things friends can do is say, hey, this is a little awkward, but let's just talk about it. Open the door to conversation. It might be the case where your friend wants to talk about it too, and you're actually on the same page when it comes to money.
And that's it for us. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV Plus Weekend. Hope to see you next week.